Good morning. I'm Russ Mabarty, a grateful member of this community. I am. I'm certain of that, as certain as I can be. Welcome to the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. We honor you wherever you are on your spiritual path, knowing there is something wonderful for you here today. Please stand and sing the opening song.
All right, everyone do this first. Shake a little bit. Let's get the energy going in this room here. Yeah, there you go. All right, so you are welcome here. Everyone's welcome here. And all of you at home, you're welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. That's the whole thing right there. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome. Let's do that one more time. And you are welcome here. You are welcome. Feel free to look around the room and say, you are welcome. That's what we're doing. We're welcoming everyone. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome. All right, let's go to the verse here. My arms are wide open. My arms are wide open. There's room for everyone. There's room for everyone. Wherever you're going, wherever you're going, wherever you're from. Here's my favorite line. You are home. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Sing that again. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome. Now let me tell you, whatever you've been through, whatever you've been through, somehow you found us somehow. Wherever you are on your journey now, what is it now? You are home. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Oh, let's put your hands together and say, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Sing it again. You are welcome here. 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 You are welcome here.
I feel so welcome. Thank you. Okay. Please silence your cell phone. You won't need them. And stand and greet your neighbors. What?
You are welcome. Everybody's welcome. You are welcome. Welcome, welcome. You are welcome. Welcome, welcome. You are welcome, welcome. You are welcome here.
Okay, this morning's opening prayer is offered by Reverend Sarah Hargrave.
So I have a brand new chant for you before Sarah starts. So I just wrote this little chant with Jan Garrett. No push, no pull. I am empty and full. I breathe and receive and listen. Goes like this. No push, no pull. I am empty and full. I breathe and receive and listen. The space in between the invisible is seen. The silence is singing. So listen, listen, listen. No push, no pull. I am empty and full. I breathe and receive and listen. Sing it once with me. No push, no pull. No push, no pull. I am empty and full. I am empty and full. I breathe, receive, and receive, and listen, listen, listen. I listen, listen, listen. I listen.
There is so much to be grateful for as we breathe and listen and enjoy the comfort of each other's presence in this wonderful spiritual community. And so I know right now that infinite intelligence within each one of us is guiding and directing each one of us in our own lives in our own way. And whatever may be challenging or joyful, that we greet it and celebrate it and move forward knowing that Spirit is there for us. So opening our minds to the wisdom of Spirit, we give thanks. Opening our hearts to the love of Spirit that is ever present. Opening our body to the health and vitality that is always coursing through us and supporting us in our life's vision. So we accept this is all done in the mind of God. And we also today open our hearts to also support all those who are suffering or will be suffering or experiencing the storms on the East Coast, including our beloved Reverend Lloyd. So we accept this is done and simply wait for wonderful reports and delightful surprises. And so it is. Amen.
No push, no pull. I am empty and full. And I breathe and receive. And we listen. When we listen, we can hear Spirit reminding us that everything we need to know, Spirit always tells us everything we need to know is right here, right in us. So we'll chant by Linda Webb Kakaba. It goes like this. Everything that I need to know about what lies before me, everything that I need to know about what lies before me is available to me, is available to me through the mind of God within me. Ain't that the truth? Everything that I need to know about what lies before me, everything that I need to know about what lies before me is available to me, is available to me through the mind of God within me. Can you sing that with me now? Everything that I need to know about what lies before me, everything that I need to know, you know it, Judith, about what lies before me is available to me, is available to me through the mind of God within me. Everything that I need to do about what lies before me, everything that I need to do about what lies before me is available to me, is available to me through the mind of God within me. Everything that I need to release about what lies before me, everything that I need to release about what lies before me is available to me, is available to me through the mind of God within me, through the mind of God within me. Everyone sing that line, through the mind of God, because that's kind of the main thing today. Mind of God within me, through the mind of God within me. Thank you, thank you.
Yay, thank you, Karen. I especially like that meditation song this morning.
Thank you.
Really like that. Yeah. Kudos to you and Jan Garrett both for that. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Mary Marie Shelton, the community spiritual leader here at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. And I am delighted to see you this morning, all masked and beautiful. And all those of you at home, your whole faces shining in this very direction. And I just want to say happy birthday to Ron Buck, who a little bird told me is your birthday this morning. Woohoo! So be sure that he gets a little bit of extra TLC from you this morning, everybody. We are continuing with our annual theme this year of timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. So timeless wisdom really refers to all the great wisdom traditions of the earth, which we link into and connect with in our teaching. And then also for looking forward to what is developing, the spiritual technologies and awarenesses that are starting to develop more and more in the world, the overlap between science and philosophy and religion that's showing up in various ways and places. That's kind of the path that we're on, bridging the traditional wisdom that is ancient and predates all sorts of religions, and linking that with the evolutionary vision that's coming forward in all the things that we're discovering in the world. And I just recently came across an article, a very long article, I don't remember how I found it online now, about all of the positive developments that are happening in the world. And I thought, wow, how come nobody's talking about this on any of the news channels? I watch news, and yet recently, it seems like with the news I'm watching, there's one story in the news, and they're pounding it into the ground every single night, which I get. And at the same time, there's a lot going on in the world that we need to know about that isn't bad news. So I just want to bring that to our attention because it's very easy for us to get out of balance, and particularly because, good news doesn't necessarily sell product. It isn't focused on as much, and therefore we don't realize that it's happening, and it makes it look like the world is in dire straits, which in many ways it is, and that is not the whole story about what's going on. So I just want to kind of remind us of that this morning, because there's so much in the world right now that's so in our faces to be upset about, right? So if you watch the news, you either get to feel despair or anger, or a combination of, angspair or disanger or discour something, discouragement, frustration, annoyance, intolerance, you name it. It gets cultivated, doesn't it? In watching that news and not having any balancing information. So I really want to encourage you to go look for good news because it's out there. And if I can find that article, I'll post a link to it in the newsletter or something. But I just want to say that because today I'm talking about, this month, our theme is please hold for guidance. And it does kind of seem like we're on hold waiting for somebody to come and save us, you know. Where is the guidance that we're waiting for? Well, you know, what's happening is out there in these little pockets of people who are doing these amazing things. There is a guy who is making artificial coral reefs that are now being populated by fish and wildlife, because you know we have coral reefs that are dying on the planet. And he's building these artificial coral reefs that are being populated by the wildlife that normally would live in the coral reef, and the artificial ones are also doing water purification. So they're providing a benefit and a habitat at the same time. And that's the kind of stuff that's happening in little places that we're not actually paying attention to. So I think it's time for us to pay attention to what is working, at least part of the time, yes? And so when we're looking at holding for guidance, maybe what we're holding for is actually for our own good sense to go and look up some of this stuff. Because the guidance and the information is there, but we've got to go and take a look at it in order to feel that encouragement of what's going on behind the scenes. So today, I'm talking about our inner GPS. That is, guidance perception system. You know, in order for us to receive guidance, we have to perceive that it's available, that it exists, and that it's there all the time. Because otherwise, what we tend to do is overlook it, talk ourselves out of it, or ignore it. One of those three things. And the truth is that the idea that human beings have a propensity for intuition is well established now. It's not just some folktale or old wives' tale or superstition. We actually have intuition. So the question is, are we paying attention to it? Are we letting it serve us in the way that it's there to do? So when we're looking at a global positioning system, what they call a sat-nav in the British Isles, a satellite navigation, when you have a GPS on your phone or in your car, what does it do? Well, first of all, it tells you where you are, theoretically anyway. It should be telling you where you are. It should be able to tell you what some of your best options are for routes to get from where you are to where you want to go, right? And if it's really good, it should route you away from traffic jams and disasters because it's tuned in to a system of information. All right? It also helps you with course correction. You know, I've said before that I am directionally challenged. And so my GPS is my guardian angel, because when I turn the wrong direction, which I do about 80% of the time, she'll get right back on and help me reroute myself, you know, take a U-turn at the next opportunity. She never berates me. She's never impatient. She never says, I have been telling you this for 6 blocks. You know, she never does that. So I'm really appreciative of her course correction. And also, that navigation is available via the satellite. So satellite imaging is what that GPS uses. Now, we have an internal GPS system, or global perception system, which is our intuition. And it will tell us, if we let it will tell us how we're doing, so far anyway. It will tell us what the options are for our path forward. And how do we know there are options for our path forward? Because we feel a response to them. We feel a pull toward them, or we feel a resistance to them, or we feel a sense of ambivalence or questioning. Have you ever walked into a store someplace and for reasons that you could not explain, felt like you had to get out of there right now? Anybody ever felt that? And do you leave when you feel that way? Good for you. Yeah. I do too, and it's weird because I don't know what causes that feeling. But I have learned to pay attention to that most of the time. Anyway, if something feels off, to just let it go. It is off for me for whatever reason, right? And in the same way, we can feel really drawn to something without being able to express why. And so when we follow through on that, sometimes we discover what the why was, and sometimes we don't. Our internal system also gives us clues for getting back on course. When we are going in the wrong direction, generally, we don't feel good. about it. You know, when we're not being authentic with somebody, that doesn't feel good. When we're in a place where we're feeling very critical and irritable, that doesn't feel good, at least to me. Are you with me here? Is this resonating? Yeah? And that's the GPS internally saying to us, you know what? This is not working for you. Time for a reset, right? It also gives us clues. This internal guidance perception system gives us clues as to the reliability of the resources that we're relying on. So if we're honest with ourselves and paying attention, when we listen to somebody who is ranting and raving about something, even when they're ranting and raving about something from a point of view that we agree with, something in us can tell us that this is ranting and raving, right? I hear myself doing that sometimes when Amanda's being very patient and not saying, okay, enough already. I will hear myself and say, okay, I'm stepping off my soapbox now. I have no opinion, as you can tell. I'm stepping off my soapbox now and drawing back into normal. It's the internal sense of humor going, boy, you're taking this really seriously, aren't you? You know? Maybe it's time to back off just a little bit. So even when we agree with somebody, we can tell when they're zoning off into that kind of amped up, not quite fanatic, but kind of leaning toward that direction. You know what I'm talking about? And we can tune in on it with ourselves sometimes if we're paying attention, too. We may or may not be able to stop ourselves in the moment, but we can tell when we're doing that. Now, one of the things about that with global media services is that we tend to really rely on certain ones to be accurate because, as Ram Dass says, they agree with us. That's how we know somebody's wise, right? That's our assessment of it. They see the world the same way we do, therefore they must be right. They must be wise. And so it's, I think, really helpful to keep our GPS that tells us we're over the top here a little bit on this particular perspective, story, point of view, so that we can stand in our own awareness and not just get totally sucked into, whatever particular point of view that is that we do already agree with. Does this make sense, what I'm saying? Because just because we agree with it doesn't mean that we need to launch off into the farthest reaches of it. We have in religion, in medicine, in science, in philosophy, in any field you want, we have fanatics. St. Paul was a fanatic. He was a fanatic before he became a Christian. He was a fanatic after he became a Christian. So it's helpful when reading the Bible and looking at the writings of St. Paul to recognize when he's a little off the deep end and not just swallow it all because it's in the Bible or some other sacred scripture. Is this making sense? I recently had a session online with a bunch of other people with an Islamic teacher from Seattle who was talking about the Quran. And he said, for any spiritual book that you read, you need to remember two things. There are two kinds of writing in any spiritual book that you're looking at. There are the deeper spiritual truths that supersede whatever's going on at the time. And then there are specific passages that have to do with issues that are global or regional or are happening right where that particular writer or person is at that time. And they may not be resonant with the rest of the message that shows up in other places in the scripture. So I think it's useful for us to understand that there are places in the Bible, there are places in the Quran, there are places in the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, where there is something that is an anchored, deep spiritual truth. And you can tell that because it isn't exclusive of anybody. It isn't us-them type of messaging. It isn't victim-y. It isn't blaming. Those we'll find are the more resonant veins of truth. Is this making sense, what I'm saying? So I think it's important to be aware of that when we listen to the news, too, or when we read those kinds of nonfiction accounts, that there may be something that is being reflected that's a deeper truth. A lot of times news is not designed to reflect deeper truth. It's designed to reflect differences and issues that need to be addressed and that kind of stuff. So when we glom onto it as if it's life and death, we're ignoring the deeper truths that are continuing underneath these appearances that are temporary, that are so upsetting, that are happening. I'm thinking of Mother Teresa saying that when she would go out into the streets in India and bring lepers in from the gutters, from the untouchables, people that nobody would go near, she said that what she was intending to do was to serve Jesus in all his distressing disguises. In other words, that there was not a single soul out there in one of those horrible appearance situations that was not the presence of Jesus for her. That was what her intention was in her service, was to look past the condition to the essence of truth that was there. So with our own global positioning system, we're using a different kind of satellite navigation. It's kind of a universal hologram of truth that we're all expressions of and connected to. And that hologram of truth is essentially saying, time and space, well, it's not fixed like you think it is. It's not happening sequentially like it seems to be. There's something entirely different going on here. So when we look into quantum physics, we find that the way that the physics of the universe works on a microscopic level is not necessarily the way it seems to work in our everyday lives, and yet there's something going on that's bigger than we think. So if we're connected to a holographic imaging system that is available to us always and directive when we let it be, or receive that guidance and direction, we are accessing something that is available to us that is not limited to the time and space that we find ourselves in the moment. It's not limited to the age that we are, the history that we have, the education or economic level that we're experiencing, the race that we are, the religion we grew up with, the language that we speak. It's not limited to any of that stuff. It is the deeper vein of truth that we're connected to, and it isn't limited to time or space. So we have access to incredible wisdom that isn't locked into this particular moment. Am I speaking English? Okay, good. So you're still with me. That's really good. And the thing about, with our global positioning system that we use in the car, it's constantly updating itself. Well, so is this holographic imaging system. It's constantly and continuously updating itself. So we always have access to the fullest possible information we can let ourselves take in. And that's the trick. We set the filter that lets in the guidance or not. And that is entirely up to us. So most of us, by the time that we're the ages that we are now, the filtering system that we use is really well established, and we have proven it to ourselves by collecting evidence over our entire lives that this is how the universe works, this is how we are, this is how the world is, this is what we can expect of things. And because we're constructed in such a way that we need to limit the amount of stimulation and input we can actually take in, the human brain can only handle so much input, then the brain is designed to filter stuff out that we have deemed less important or not true. And mostly, the brain is good at filtering that out, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't experience it. And when you do, if you already have the assumption within you that it isn't real or true, then you will have a way of interpreting the fact that it got through into your awareness. You will look at it as a superstition, imagination, a mirage, or an exception. So we still get to hold on to our belief, even though something contradictory has shown up to invite us to perhaps question. We have all these ways of blocking that questioning, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does limit what's available. Would you agree? Okay, so what happens then is when we want to use our intuition, which is available to everybody, and I want to share with you something about our intuitive system too. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, in this thing called You, wrote this: the original author of all life is in and around you. Not a God who was, but a God who is. Keep the doorway of your mind open. Feeling, thinking, communing with this life. Know that it fills you with light and power. Learn to exchange fears, doubts, and uncertainties for faith. There is a power which flows out through your words of faith. There is a law of faith which has the power to bring into your life everything you need. So let me say something about intuition now. This comes from an online article about intuition. Science has found real evidence to support the existence of intuition. There are plenty of studies, but let's talk about one in particular because it's a good one. This particular study showed how the intuitive part of our brain knows the right answer long before the more analytical part of the brain cops to the right answer, all right? In this study, participants played a card game, which, unknown to the participants, was rigged from the beginning. So participants had to choose from one of two decks of cards. One was rigged to provide big wins and then big losses. The other, small gains, but hardly any losses. And the participants reported that after 50 cards, they had a hunch about which deck was safer. After 80, they were able to explain the difference between the two decks. But here's where it gets interesting. After only 10 cards, the sweat glands on the palms of their hands opened whenever they took a card from the dangerous deck. It was about then that participants started to prefer the safer deck, but there was no conscious awareness that this was happening. So before the analytical part of their brain knew what was going on, the subject's intuition guided them toward a better decision. Their bodies knew. There was information happening in their systems that was already being communicated even before the analytical part of their brain could put words to why that was happening. Okay? So the intuitive awareness that's in us, sometimes we say we have a gut reaction. It's true, the gut has a nervous system that is not quite as extensive as the brain, but it's more so than a lot of other places in the body. And this is generally where we start to feel this doesn't feel good. I can't explain why. Or, wow, this feels great. What is different about this place or this person or this conversation? You know what I mean? So Ernest Holmes, again, our founder, says, there is within each one of us an intelligence which may be called upon, utilized, and experienced. Blessed are they who, having not seen, in confidence believe and recognize that in themselves the Creator of all things has poured forth a supreme gift, the ability to choose for themselves what they shall think, and thus create for themselves a life filled with all the good they can envision. So, with intuition, come back. We get the clue of, okay, well, how am I doing so far? You know? I got a sense that this is going well, or I have a sense that this is really not going well. It's like stand-up comedians, you know? It's this going well, this is flowing, I'm bombing out here. This is like I'm dying and I don't know what I'm doing wrong, right? Also, we want to be aware that with intuition, there is a difference between our soul wants and our brain or body wants. So sometimes the brain will argue for something, even though it doesn't feel right. The brain will argue for something, or the brain will resist something that somewhere else we know feels like the right thing, but the brain is going, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that. And so we have to recognize that there's a difference between the two. Also, the opening to experience meaningful coincidences requires be still time. Now, I want to talk about meaningful coincidences a little bit more. So I want to say something about synchronicity, serendipity, and coincidence. Those three things, okay? So Sky Nelson Isaacs, in his book Leap to Wholeness, wrote, "A synchronicity is a chance event that feels meaningful because it leads to an experience you are seeking to have." Okay? And Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity and wrote about it back in the 1950s. And what he said synchronicity is two or more events that happen at the same time that do not seem to be causally related, but are meaningfully related. And I'll give you some stories in just a minute about that. Serendipity is making desirable discoveries by accident or luck. And I just read last night that somebody who studies luck said that the people who are paying attention and are optimistic about their possibilities, those two things, produce more luck in their lives than those who aren't paying attention or who are more pessimistic. You know, Ernest Holmes said expectancy speeds progress. So a positive expectancy is more likely to draw to us positive experiences and results for whatever reason, all right? A coincidence originally meant two things that fit together perfectly. That used to be what it meant. Now it means two or more things happening simultaneously by accident, or apparently by accident, all right? Now I want to give you some interesting stories that relate to this kind of thing. You may remember about, 4, 5 or more years ago, when Amanda and I were still living with Reverend Carol, we got up one morning for breakfast, and Reverend Carol went over to the silverware drawer in the kitchen and opened it up and pulled out a knife and said to us, "Did you find this knife and put it in here?" It was a silver knife, not like the flatware that was in the drawer. It was a silver knife that none of us, well, Amanda and I had never seen it before. This silver knife that was in the drawer was a knife that belonged to a set Carol had inherited from her grandmother. And and all of the rest of the set was in a wooden, box, silverware box tucked away. This particular knife had gone missing 10 years earlier. No one had seen it in that amount of time, and that morning it was in the drawer. There was nobody in the house but the three of us. Now, it was a little tarnished, so clearly it had been somewhere, but we did not know where. And it went back into the silverware box with the rest of the set. Where was it? Why did it come back that particular day? Where did it come from? How did it wind up in the silverware drawer? Instead of just back in its box where we wouldn't have noticed until we went to use the silverware again. No, it was important that we notice. So we did. In his memoirs, the French writer Émile Deschamps claims that in 1805, he was treated to some plum pudding by a stranger named Monsieur de Fortescue. And 10 years later, the writer encountered plum pudding on the menu of a Paris restaurant and wanted to order some. But the waiter told him that the last dish had already been served to another customer, who turned out to be de Fortescue. Many years later, in 1932, Émile Deschamps was again at a diner and was once again offered plum pudding. And he recalled the earlier incident and told his friends that only de Fortescue was missing to make the setting complete. And at the same instant, the now senile de Fortescue entered the room. How does that happen? In his book Synchronicity, which was written in 1952, Jung tells the following story as an example of a synchronistic event. Bless you. He said, "A young woman I was treating had, at a critical moment, a dream in which she was given a golden scarab. And while she was telling me this dream, I sat with my back to the closed window, and suddenly I heard a noise behind me like a gentle tapping. I turned around and saw a flying insect knocking against the window pane from the outside. I opened the window and caught the creature in the air as it flew in. It was the nearest analogy to a golden scarab one finds in our latitudes, a scarabid beetle, the common rose chaffer, which, contrary to its usual habits, had evidently felt the urge to get into a dark room at this particular moment. I must admit that nothing like it ever happened to me before or since. One more. The wardrobe department for The Wizard of Oz purchased a coat for the character of Professor Marvel at a secondhand store. For the look of Professor Marvel, the director wanted a kind of seedy gentility. And so the costume department went down to a secondhand store and picked out a bunch of coats. And on the set, the actor, Frank Morgan, who played Professor Marvel, turned the coat pocket on one coat inside out, and to his shock, L. Frank Baum was stitched on the inside. L. Frank Baum was the author of the children's book, The Wizard of Oz. And they really found his coat and used it in the movie. Now, how does that happen? Meaningful coincidence, right? Synchronicity. Two apparently acausal events happening that are meaningfully related to each other. Jung wrote, after describing various examples, when coincidences pile up in this way, one cannot help but be impressed by them. For the greater the number of terms in such a series, or the more unusual its character, the more improbable it becomes. Would you agree? So when we're using our intuition, we can expect meaningful coincidences to reveal themselves or to show up. I had an experience like this a number of years ago, just a couple weeks after the experience we had with Reverend Carroll with the knife. I was on my way to guest speak for the church in Oakland. And Amanda and I got into the car to leave, to head over to Oakland, and I was trying to put a beaded bracelet on my right wrist, and I could not get the thing latched. So I asked Amanda to hook it for me, which she did. And we went off to the Oakland church, and I did 2 services that morning there, and we got in the car to come home. And as we're driving down the freeway, I noticed that the bracelet was gone. And I said, oh, gee, maybe I took it off in the bathroom to wash my hands. It's not the kind of thing I would normally have done, but I couldn't think why it was gone, except it could have just fallen off. I might have just lost it that way. And I was discouraged because I had a necklace that matched it, and I really liked it a lot, but oh well. So we went home. About a week later, I was packing for a women's retreat that I was going to be facilitating, and I had taken out my little jewelry bag to put in it the jewelry I was going to take, and I went over and opened up the drawer in my jewelry box where I keep my bracelets, and there it was, folded right on top of all the other bracelets. Now, how did that happen? Where did it go, and where did it come back, and how did that work? So events happen in our lives that are unexplainable, and the way that we usually handle them is to make up a logical explanation. We guess at something that we don't know is the truth, but it comforts us to feel that we have control over it, and so we assign that story to why it happened. Well, maybe I never really put it on. I just thought I had, or maybe somebody found it in the car and put it back in my bracelet drawer, even though everybody claimed they didn't know where it came from, Anyway, stuff happens, right? And when this stuff happens, we get to experience a whole new level of life that is inexplicable. Kevin Smith says, sometimes the path you're on is not as important as the direction you're heading. And an unknown person said this, though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. And part of what allows us to do that is using that intuitive awareness that we have. And so I want to remind us that for best results, it's good to balance our rational, analytical, common sense side with our intuition. That's the overlap where we're going to find the best results in terms of guidance, in terms of what we want to do. And just to anchor that point, I want to share this sweet little story with you as the close for this. There was a shipwreck off the Pacific Northwest coast, and a crowd of fishermen from a nearby village gathered to watch the ship as it was smashed on the rocks, and a lifeboat was sent out with some of them to rescue the crew. And after a terrific struggle, the rescuers managed to come back with all of the shipwrecked sailors, all but one. There was no room in the lifeboat for him, so we told him to wait by the ship and someone would come back for him, shouted a young man. Who will come with me? And Jim yelled back to him, I'll go. Now, Jim's mother was an old woman, and she begged him not to go. She had already lost her husband at sea, and her oldest son had gone off some years earlier in a ship and had never come back either. And so she said, you know, you are all I have left. Your father and William are gone. You're all I have, and I love you. Please don't go. But for some reason, although Jim listened to her pleas, he knew something in him. He knew that he had to go. And so he told her that he had to go. And everyone stayed and watched the lifeboat being tossed by these high waves as it fought its way back to the shipwreck. And they finally saw this little boat heading back toward the shore, still being tossed up and down by this angry sea. And as the boat finally came close enough for their voices to be heard, some of the fishermen on the shore yelled out to Jim, "Did you get him? Did you get him?" And Jim shouted back, "Yes! Tell Mother it's William, his brother." What if no one had gone back? So the important thing, as Antoine de Saint-Exupéry says in Flight to Eris, the important thing is to strive toward a goal which is not immediately visible. That goal is not the concern of the mind, but of the spirit. We are not always going to know why we feel called to something. If we're really feeling called to it, that's not a good enough reason to not go toward it. That inner guidance perception system is calling to us. So I want to invite you to stand up right now and join me in the morning affirmation to invite this awareness, this guidance more deeply into our own experience now by saying together, today, I choose to let myself be aware of the guidance coming to me. I know I'm supported by Spirit. Help and guidance is here for me, and I welcome it and use it wisely. You may be seated. And let's take this into the inner prayer time now. So, as we sit here right now, we are surrounded by and infused with the presence of Spirit. Spirit unlimited by time or space, containing all-knowing and everything relevant to who we have been, who we are, and all of the possibilities for who we are becoming or may be. Spirit holds all of this wholeness for us right where we are as we choose step by step to go forward. And so I know and claim for us all this morning, all those here, all our dear ones who are not here, and all our beloveds, all of our human family throughout the planet, for the planet herself, for all life on this planet, from minerals upward, that there is a divine intelligence, an order, a harmony that is alive in every atom, every cell, that all of it is connected. We are all connected to the whole. And there is harmony establishing and reestablishing itself in that whole. We let go of our attachment to scary appearances. We let go of our tendency to chew on them and worry over them and make them more and more real in our upset. And instead, we move our attention to the deeper vein of truth, of this wholeness that is not limited by appearances and conditions, of this harmony that is the essence from which we're made, we turn our attention in faith to an expectancy of greater good, and we look for it, and we welcome it, and we let it draw us into the right next steps with love and faith, letting it be our truth as we step forward in safety and wholeness. I'm grateful to know that this is the truth underlying all that is, right here, right now. So I let this prayer go into the creative law of mind and spirit and let it be. Just let it be in me, around me, for me, through me, as me, and for us all. With gratitude, we let it go and we let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Yes. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, you can wave at me. Give me a wave. Give me an energy wave. Yeah. Yes, an energy wave is always good. Applause are welcome, but energy waves are good. Namaste, all of you out there in TV land this morning. So this now becomes our sacred offering time. And, you know, we're very often giving by rote. If we tithe, we give a specific amount every month. If we give automatically, it comes out of our checking account. So we're often not giving with a conscious awareness of what we're doing. And yet, there is something sacred happening when we do the offering. We are specifically taking some of the good that's been entrusted to us, and we're blessing it and sending it intentionally out into the world to do a certain work. And it doesn't matter who we're sending it to, because what we can do with anything we send out into the world is bless it before it goes. So if you automatically pay your cable bill and you automatically pay your mortgage and you automatically pay your cell phone or whatever it is, bless it as it goes out into the world. Now, I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward right now to the front as we prepare to do our offering blessing together. If you want to text to give this morning, the info is up there on the screen, and you're welcome to do that. And we want to bless this offering, not only for what's being given right here in this room right this moment, but for all the gifts we have sent out into the world this week, and for all that we have received as a community and individually. So let's join together. Oh, I thought that was up. No, now it's up. If you want a text to give, now the information is on the screen. Just the number you're giving, no $ or decimal point. And we will also bless the offering together by saying this in unison. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is.
So I have a song today that maybe anchors her talk a little bit. It goes like this. And I am open to the possibilities. I am open to the possibilities of a life that is meant to be lived by me. I don't have all the answers now, but I'm willing to take it slow. And I believe something is calling me where that path will lead. I don't know, but I am open to the possibilities. I am open to the possibilities. Can you just sing that line with me? Just say, I am open to the possibilities. You can even say the synchronicities. I am open all the synchronicities, possibilities. I am open to the possibilities. Last one. I am open to the possibilities.
Yeah. So we do now, with great gratitude, receive and accept everything that's been given right here this morning. Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living intentionally blesses this, as all of us, and sends this out to do amazing work in the world wherever it goes, that it carries a blessing with it to bless everybody that comes into contact with it. And so it is. All right. So, if you happen to be with us for the first time this morning, welcome. I know it's hard to get to know people when you can only see them from here up, but thank you for being here. We love your eyes, and we hope to see them often with us in the future. You will find there is a welcome table right back behind you there, and on it there are welcome packets available for our guests today. So if you're a guest here for the first time, you're going to find a welcome card, a blue card, in the welcome packet back there. If you fill it out and leave it there at the table, I don't know if the little books are back there or not. What we want to do is give you a gift that's a book. And so when you turn this in, we will give you, no, the book isn't in the packet though. There it is, that little book. Yes, you get that little book when you turn in your blue card. So that's, Paula's holding that up. So we invite you to do that. And we thank you for being here this morning. And I also want to thank all those who helped make this service this morning. There's a bunch of them. You'll notice that we have a few empty spaces up there today. The altar was a waiting space today that received a few candles from the practitioner table and rescued a flower arrangement from somewhere else in the building so that this would not be an open space today, but it is an open fallow space for this particular Sunday of the month. We don't have a regular altar person. So if you would like the idea of building an altar, you can have something to do with that. And you know the drill. We're still on mask mandate, so we can be without them when we're up at the front. But when we're in group, we wear our masks, and we thank you for that. You'll find there's hand sanitizer and masks at the doors when you come in, and please avail yourself if you need one. Also, Rachel and Suzanne and I are going to be teaching Foundations class in about a month's time. You can still get the early bird pricing until, I think, the 2nd of September, so there's another week or so. But you should do it now so you get the better price. It's a 10-week class, and it's fabulous. And if you've taken it before, maybe it's time that your intuition is letting you know it's time for a review. It's time to come back and remember what you know and apply it more deeply. If you're new, this is a great place to jump in because this is the first class of all of them. And so there's early bird pricing right now. There are also scholarships. Let me know if you want to know more information about those. This Sunday, today, this afternoon, from 12:30 to 2:30, Marilyn Letzos is going to be doing Quick Start online on Zoom. I'm just saying that to remind those of you who signed up for it that it's happening, so do check your handouts and your link so that you can be sure and be there with her at 12:30. And for those of you online who are used to being able to come to coffee conversation and connection following the service in the Zoom meeting, hang in there with us. We're going to see if we can reinstitute that in September, where when the service ends, we have a space set up where people who are attending online can see us, and we can go over and chat with them, and they can chat back and forth. So we'll try that at the beginning of September and see how that goes. So we encourage you to be around to say hello to people when that opportunity arises. Also, I believe the practitioners or the Welcome Table one has the current August Science of Mind magazines available for sale. They're $4.95 plus tax. You can get one of those with the weekly meditations or the daily meditations, and we should have September's probably next week available for you also. And finally, one of our members, Arthur Young, is certified in a number of eco-friendly information processes. And so one of the things that he wants to do in service to everybody is to provide a weekly little like tip or suggestion that comes from this wealth of information he has about how to treat our earth more kindly. Maybe it'll be how to save water or how to recycle more effectively or something like that. But that'll start in September. So each week we'll put out a little tip that you can try if you like. And as he said, short, simple, compelling, do what attracts your heart. So that's the message that's going to be coming up. Now, if you have a desire for prayer, and who doesn't, really, be sure that you avail yourself of the opportunity to put a request in the prayer box on Sunday morning. And if you have time, to stop with one of our serving practitioners that morning and get a prayer from them. We have a special space downstairs that's private for prayer time, and they will do brief prayers with you, which is what they're trained to do. So if you have time, never ever leave with a heavy heart. Stop, get a treatment from one of the practitioners, and if you don't have time, or even if you do, put in a written request. Now let's have the box over here. I want you to know that when you fill out a prayer request, part of opening to receiving the response of prayer is letting go of our attachment to how it is and opening up to the possibility of what we want it to be, or even better than what we want it to be. So I like to tell people, as soon as you let go of the prayer request card, it goes into the creative law right away, even before the practitioners see it and start prayer over it, because, as we know, spirit is not limited by time and space. So once you let it go, their prayers, which haven't even started yet, are already working on that request. That's what I believe. I am a little out there, but that's what I believe. So I want to invite the practitioners to surround the room, and we're going to pray right now for all the requests that are in the box and for those requests that are still in your hearts this morning, or even those that you've forgotten that you have, because the Infinite knows about all of that. So let's take a breath. And we go into right now a mode of receptivity in total faith and trust that that one life, that infinite presence, the mystery, the great spirit, the divine intelligence, the whatever we call it, that source of all that is right here, fully in its presence, in this room, in each one of us, in this moment. There is not a single prayer request in this box that is a mystery to Spirit. There is not a single prayer request that God doesn't know a way to bring about a resolution for. So we surrender into that greater way this morning. Open with expectancy to the good that wants to come forward, to letting go of what's in its way, to welcoming what is trying to happen, and those qualities in us that are wanting, pushing, pulling to be expressed and experienced and felt and known in a deeper way. We're grateful for all of this. We're grateful that it's taking place right now. So we let this prayer go with that gratitude and delight in mind. We let it be, and together we say, and so it is. And so it is. Please stand, everybody now, and join me for the benediction and the closing. So, if you're not comfortable taking hands, you don't need to do that, but you can put your right hand on the shoulder of the person next to you. And yeah, you can scoot over and do that. That's fine. I can climb under very easily. All right? Okay, and let's say this together. I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for Spirit and all people and I are one eternally. And so it is. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy.
I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. You got it. Sing it out. Let there be and declare it. We